Hello everyone, I'm Joel Baird, the General Manager of Missoula Community Access Television. I want to invite you to a program we're going to do on a concept called jail diversion. And the formal name of the program in Missoula is the Missoula County Jail Diversion Master Plan. In the studio to talk to me about it is Missoula County Sheriff T.J. McDermott and Cynthia Walken, who is Montana State Senator from District 48. Welcome and thank you for coming over.
Thank you, Joel, for having us.
Thank you for having us.
You're most welcome. So I told you I'm going to claim ignorance in this matter, but I did Google a definition for jail diversion, and I came up with this. A general term for those programs that divert, hence the diversion part of the name, divert individuals with serious mental illness and often co-occurring substance abuse disorders away from jail and provide links to community-based treatment and support services. How does that do for a very generalized definition?
That's a good definition.
Okay.
I would add to that, Joel, that our community has been talking about jail diversion for a long time. When I began my term as sheriff in January of 2015, overcrowding, over-incarceration at the Missoula County Jail had been an issue for several years. There were plans in place to consider adding on or making our current jail larger than it is. But one of the things that we know is that a portion of the population is in jail due to substance abuse, addiction issues, and mental health issues. And so a big part of the definition is those folks that have those issues that are also nonviolent and non-dangerous is what jail diversion really applies to, and that's our focus, is trying to make sure that those people are in the proper system to get the proper care and treatment for those issues. And we just know that our jail is not that place.
Right. And Cynthia, your work in Helena at the state level had something to do with the creation of this concept and the implementation of steps towards a jail diversion program.
Yeah, so at the state level, we're sort of seeing sort of a similar pattern as Missoula County is. Our state crime rate isn't increasing, but our the number of people in our secure detention beds is increasing. And so we wanted to sort of gather the data, analyze it, talk to stakeholders, and figure out why is this happening, who's in our jail, and how can we reduce recidivism. So how can we get people, not sent to jail or prison in the first place, and how can we make sure that they're less likely to come back. So we're doing that at the state level, and Sheriff McDermott has really taken the lead in strategizing at the county level for this issue.
Gotcha. So the issue, I'm going to rephrase it, right? Just say somebody's watching and they're like, what do those guys say? You have said that some people, jail is not the best place for them. They have problems, but they're not going to get the services they need when they're being detained. Is it a separation to say this person is not a criminal, they are someone suffering from a mental health disorder or defining drug addiction as a health disorder rather than a willful moral issue that needs punishment?
Well, I think we really need to be smart on crime, and that's really what this is about. And I want to underscore that the population for this study was just people charged with nonviolent offenses. So we want to make sure that there's room in our jail and in our state prison for people who are sexual offenders, violent offenders, a danger to community, and we wanted to target with this plan people that could get the support services they need so that they could get help so that they don't come back. If you're a county taxpayer, you're funding the jail, and the jail is a really expensive way to treat a social problem like substance abuse, alcoholism, mental health issues, and in fact it doesn't treat it. We're just keeping somebody away from the community for a certain amount of time, but putting someone in jail, it doesn't in and of itself make that person less likely to commit a crime in the future. And that's where treatment programs and the social services and really sort of wraparound services, that is what research has shown actually reduces recidivism. So why aren't we, shifting our resources and our the way we look at the criminal justice system, not in a silo anymore, but look at it in terms of how can we sort of, comprehensively address this issue in the front end so we can save money on the back end and create the space we need in our jail for the people who really need to be there.
And often I think of people that view these types of programs, right, from maybe a harsher level. There are people that have this is right and wrong, and what you do with wrong is you punish. Often, if you could say to that mindset, well, this saves money, it softens that harder moral point of view. Even if they would not agree that, alcoholism is a disease, right? People debate that, and they say, no, it's a moral issue. But with this type of applying social science to the justice system, it is a way to be more compassionate, and if you don't like that, it's a way of saving money.
Right.
Does it kind of summarize the debate a little bit?
It does, and one of the important points is that our community is growing, and our city is growing, so at some point, we may need to build or add on to the jail, but for right now, one thing that's clear is that the alternatives to incarcerations work, and the data supports that. And if a person who has an addiction issue receives treatment, some of the accountability programs where they're allowed to be out of jail provide a breath sample in the morning and then provide a breath sample at night in exchange for being out of jail. It just allows people to still deal with their charges and their offenses appropriately and be accountable, but yet they're allowed to maintain employment and maintain family relationships and housing issues, and maybe that bump in the road for these folks is a little smaller than it would be if all of that was taken away from them. So it's truly about giving people an opportunity to get their life back on track and get the care and services that they need from our community to do so.
Yeah, because there is that sense too that for some individuals, a cross with the law, that may be a mental health thing, an alcoholism or substance abuse problem, can spiral into a disaster for their personal life. Before we started recording, I was telling you about someone I knew that was arrested for a DUI, and while they were incarcerated, one thing after another went wrong. The car was then towed. Then they didn't have money to get the car out. They didn't have the car, so they lost their job. They lost their job, so their family was really angry with them, and they disavowed them and said, out into the street you go. And here, from one instance, this problem just becomes larger and larger because we're supposed to be the people that think of the right thing to do. And if we're not applying social science of some sort to the situation, things could get a lot worse rather than better.
Yeah.
So that's my personal anecdote. MCAT does deal with a lot of people that are on the lower end of the economic spectrum, some people that are living on the street, and their lives do seem to be a tale of woe, and one cross with the law could change the direction of their life enormously.
And that's really important, I think, Joel, that you said that. A lot of national groups have put, a lot of effort into, having evidence-based, data-driven, best practices for the criminal justice system. And what you just described, there's data that all of the things that you said are leading somebody to be at an increased risk of recidivism. So losing your family support, if you're in rural Montana, losing transportation, you lose your license, you lose your job, you lose your housing, for people who already are at risk for mental health and substance abuse and alcoholism, that is, you're at huge risk of reoffending. So again, costing taxpayers and creating problems that we'd like to solve before they become a bigger problem. And, your trip to jail turns into a return trip to the state prison. So yes.
Yeah, there's a very Charles Dickensonian, element running through when you think of the law not evolving over time, okay, you're the sheriff, your job is, the judge says they're guilty, you just throw them in jail, that's your job. Very simple, ancient way of looking at this whole process. But did it start at the state level? So I Googled a little something. It said Governor Bullock releases $1 million grant to counties to allow them to look at jail diversion programs. Was it a state initiative?
That grant, yes, it was. The governor's office took a great leadership role in it, Governor Bullock, and the legislators came together from all kinds of different communities and said, we need something, because they recognized that our state hospital is just overfull, and counties, we need to have community-based services around Montana. The answer isn't just sending people in crisis to either jail or the state hospital. So those jail diversion grants are to various communities to develop programs within their own communities to keep people there. One part of the grant is for secure detention beds. So if somebody is having an acute mental health crisis, they're low income, maybe they need to be secured for like a night or two. These facilities create that place because in Missoula we don't have anything like that. And emergency departments at our hospitals are just not equipped to handle this issue. So it's going to take a lot of effort at this county level, the state level, the city level, and sometimes at the federal level to get the funding we need for some of these services that, yes, they cost money up front, but there is a significant cost savings. So that's what sort of this plan is, a roadmap of where we should be concentrating our efforts and our resources.
TJ, just to underline that, the what if you don't know, the cost of incarcerating an individual at the county jail on Mullen Road for a day.
So that cost is roughly about $108 a day. And we know that some of the sobriety programs, the ankle bracelets, the GPS monitoring can be around $10 to $20 a day.
Right.
So that's a substantial difference in cost and savings to the taxpayer. And we know that when people are on those programs, more so than not, they comply and they're very successful staying out of jail. That's a real benefit to people to be able to stay out of jail.
And it's a condition, isn't it often, that if someone's undergoing a substance abuse treatment program, they have to attend regularly, complete the program to avoid a jail sentence?
That's true. They are held accountable, and there are provisions and conditions that they have to follow in order to be out in the first place.
Right. And you were touching on a problem sort of unique to the western states. Vast areas of land and social services, we have these population clusters, but as far as I know, Warm Springs is the only comprehensive psychiatric hospital in the entire state. So that not being able to provide critical mental health services in each of our cities, it's a huge obstacle. By the time the person may be diagnosed and transported, they've already undergone some extraordinary trauma of some sort by the time they even end up there while having a psychotic episode to boot.
Yeah, we heard from a lot of people in the community that serve this population that, they're just crying out for these services, and it shouldn't be that the only way people can get services is to be arrested. I mean, that's how a lot of people find themselves at Warm Springs is, the county sheriff is responsible for transporting them, and, it shouldn't be that way. We should be able to provide people services without criminalizing, their crisis.
Right. Yeah, that does seem like a really compassionate stance to families dealing with mental illness and, of course, the person experiencing it themselves. How will it play out in Missoula City County? Will there be a coordinated effort to try to involve existing social services?
Well, one of the great things about this plan is that our community is ripe for this. I mean, we know that we are lacking services. We desperately need a 24-hour mental health crisis facility. We desperately need an expansion of pretrial facilities and some housing options for people when they get out of jail. But I have to say, I'm so impressed, Joel, with the group that I work with. Senator Wolkin, County Commissioner Colaroli, and then City Councilwoman Emily Bentley. Really some young, passionate leaders in our community that are taking this to the next step. And to touch base more on your question, is part of that step was working with the stakeholders and working with people in the criminal justice profession, in the medical and mental health professional, and the social services and people that are dealing with homelessness and housing crisis issues and employment. So this truly is a great organization of all of these groups coming together and the data along with it to support this plan. So I think for the first time, Missoula and Missoula County will probably be cutting edge in the state to bring a proposal forward that will adopt some of these recommendations that the plan has made. And I think we're going to lead the state in that effort. Other jurisdictions have tried jail bonds to build new jails or larger jails,
Yeah.
and they've failed miserably. And so I think the time is right and our community is right to really take a look at the services we need and include all of our partners. Both of our hospitals have been actively involved in discussions due to what happens in their emergency room and some of the uncompensated care that they provide.
Yeah.
And so we're really in a position now where I think we're going to be able to bring this plan forward, have some things adopted that'll benefit a great deal of people in our community and their families.
And the plan is pretty detailed. I saw it on the screen. I don't know, Scott, have you put the plan up, or could you? And the link to the plan, I always tell people to Google, right? So just Google Missoula Jail Diversion Master Plan, but they will find it on the county website.
Yes.
And is it on the city website? Yes, we tried that, and I think
It is.
we got somewhere. And so if people are interested in learning more about it, they can read the plan. Do you need help? Do you need volunteers? Do you need someone in the community to step up and say, I can help in this way?
Well, I think so. Right now, it's a draft plan, and we would really love feedback. And please don't be intimidated by the length of the plan. A lot of it is, charts and graphs on some of the population. So, and if you want to skip to just at the very end, there's 3 or 4 pages of just the recommendations. So you can just look at what the recommendations are. But really, this is a community document, and it'll be hopefully adopted in some form by the city and county. So, so far, all of the feedback we've had has been really positive, and people really connect with it because I think everybody has either themselves or a loved one or somebody they know has some sort of interaction with the jail or law enforcement that, had there been some better services or something out there, it might have had a better outcome, or they had a really positive experience and they want to reflect that too. So just getting people's feedback, I think, is really helpful because we want to incorporate that as best we can when we present the final plan.
So there's like a call for public input.
Yes.
So if people said, I had this experience, everything helps, right?
Mm-hmm.
To get the larger population to understand the issues that are involved. Personal anecdotes, for instance, could help.
Sure, yeah.
And you had an email address, and Scott's going to put that up, and that could be used to provide input to the plan or any reaction they have. I mean, maybe they've watched the few minutes we've talked about it, and people could email. Do you remember
Absolutely.
the address?
It is jail diversion, one word,
Yeah.
at
MissoulaCounty.us.
Oh, that's not that so hard.
Okay.
No, no.
So jail diversion at MissoulaCounty.us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for the other work, of course, you're on the inside track with the social services, with the various health providers.
Mm-hmm.
So that part you guys got covered. It's not like you have to go find them
Right.
where they are.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, is there anything you want to add?
Well, one of the things that we've done prior to the master plan coming out and being adopted at our detention center is we created an administrative lieutenant position. And her duties specifically daily are to monitor the jail population, identify people that are nonviolent, non-dangerous, people with substance abuse or addiction issues or mental health issues, and then to work with the prosecutors and the judges to divert those people and work on getting them in the proper place for care and treatment. So we've already initiated that. We do have a mental health provider in our facility that we've moved into our booking area so that she can be there when folks are brought
Right.
in, and she'll be there and available Also, our deputies and our detention officers have undergone crisis intervention training, which is really a community policing philosophy where law enforcement brings together mental health professionals, family members out in the field and tries to divert individuals with mental illnesses or substance abuse issues prior to them being arrested. And so the decision can be made out on the street with the patrol officer or deputy along with a mental health provider to get that person at that point diverted before they go into the court system, before they have charges and conditions. So we've trained quite a few of our detention officers as well as our deputies. We held training here in April, and hopefully that training will continue because it's proven to be very valuable to be able to deal with things right off the bat at the beginning in the field.
Diffuse situations before they become more violent and or involve more charges for the individual.
Exactly. So it's those are all things that we've been able to do within our existing personnel or staffing line to add the position, but then also our training budget that we've found a way to just make it happen because we know that it's a priority, and then at some point it's going to dovetail real nicely with this jail diversion master plan.
I gotcha.
And I think, it's important to note, as Sheriff McDermott said, he's implementing a lot of the recommendations that were related to the jail or the sheriff's office. Already there's been increased programming at the jail because that's something that's been really shown to help people while you have them there. So he started, there's a parenting class there now for parents, and just sort of improving the programming so we sort of meet people where they are and make sure that the time that they spend there, at least they're getting some benefit from that.
Right, so that it has a corrective atmosphere rather than a punitive atmosphere. I mean, it seems to me a very old debate, in people's minds, trying to distinguish the criminal from the pathetic in a way, like what is deserving of condemnation, what is deserving of compassion? How do you define, a moral act? Is this individual capable of discerning between right and wrong? All of these factors come into play. And I'm happy to see it. Almost like science is being applied to this very important human interaction. Who's in society, who's out of society? When you're in trouble, who's going to understand more of what's going on?
Yeah.
And the bottom line, too, is savings, right?
Yes,
That overall the program promises to save taxpayer money.
it is. It's a less expensive alternative than adding on to our existing jail.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's a good thing for our community. The leadership that we have on the jail diversion board, both with local and in Senator Wilkins' case, state representatives, I believe we're going to accomplish some great things with this master plan for our community. So I'm super excited about that.
Thank you both for being here.
Thank you, Joel.
Oh, you know it. And thanks for watching this program. As always, if you know of a group or issue you'd like to see on MCAT, give us a call. The number is 542-6228. For MCAT, I'm Joel Baird. Thanks for watching.